What is going on? This is absolutely insane. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Jodo Jake. Welcome back to the channel where we dive into all things Pokemon. In today's video, I have a crazy story for you. How I'll be helping grading and selling someone's childhood collection that includes multiple first edition Charizards. Yes, you heard that correctly. Plural Charizards. It's insane. I cannot believe this is happening. I'm very excited to get into this with you guys. Stick around till the end of the video. I'll be showing all these cards up close so you can see the condition, give you my grading predictions, and just, appreciate seeing these cards in hand. Like, I can't wait to show you. Throughout this video, I'll be sharing 6 essential tips for building trust in the Pokemon hobby and breaking down why trust matters. Whether you're a casual seller, a full-fledged business, or just a passionate collector, trust is the foundation for shaping your reputation in this community. Yes, the C word, you heard that correctly. All right, so let me set the stage for you guys. My collector buddies and I have this tradition that we call Cards and Coffee. And all that is we get together maybe twice a month. We bring our personal collection, whether that's our binders, our slabs, or graded cards, and we go to coffee shops and we just talk about all things Pokemon and share our collections. We talk about the market, we talk about what we're buying and selling, we talk about current events, because let's be honest, this hobby moves fast and there's literally always something new to talk about. And like I said, we honestly just get together so that we can geek out and share our collections with one another. It's a good time. Now, one Sunday we were doing our usual hangout at a coffee shop, and naturally we had our cases with our slabs inside. And you know how it goes. If you have Pokemon cards out in public, people are naturally going to be curious as to why there are grown adults with Pokemon cards in public. And that's when I met Jason and his family. He had noticed the PSA sticker that was on my Pelican case and asked if I graded Pokemon cards. I said, yeah, I do group submissions for my close friends and I. And he's intrigued and he starts telling us about how he found his old childhood collection at his parents' house. It was the classic grandma's attic story that some of us have probably seen on Reddit more than once. It was like to the T. And he said something that really caught my interest, and that was first edition. Now, I didn't want to get my hopes up because a lot of the time when people come into the hobby that are brand new or returning back to the hobby, they often get confused on what first edition actually is. But the moment he pulled out his phone to show us his collection, I was blown away. We were all blown away. This wasn't your ordinary binder. This binder had some true gems in it. After exchanging numbers with Jason, he had mentioned that he had wanted to sell his collection but wanted to grade it first. The only catch was he didn't know how to grade Pokemon cards. He didn't know what that process looked like. He didn't know how to navigate buying and selling Pokemon cards. That's when I suggested offering him a middleman service where I help handle all of that for him. I encourage him to take his time and think it over and to reach out if he decides he wants to move forward with it. For those who may not be familiar with middlemaning, it refers to the process of acting as a trusted intermediary between two parties in a transaction, typically in buying, selling, or trading goods or services. In the world of Pokemon cards, a middleman ensures that both the buyer and the seller fulfill their side of the agreement, offering protection and peace of mind for everyone involved. By acting as a neutral third party, the middleman helps prevent scams and fraud. Both the buyer and the seller can trust that the deal is fair and secure. So after several conversations, sharing some referrals, and a follow-up meeting to review all of the cards in person, I had earned Jason's trust. He decided to move forward with my services, and let me tell you, I could not be more honored or excited. In Jason's case, I'll be doing all of the above with his cards, ensuring that with every sale, I protect both parties and ensuring smooth transactions. But before I do that, I'll be adding an additional layer of value. I'll be grading all of his cards with PSA. By adding this layer, this will help Jason maximize his profits. Not only am I grading 10 holo base set cards, 8 of them are first edition. And let me tell you, there is some heat in this collection. I truly can't wait to show you. But before we dive into the cards, I want to share some valuable tips on building trust drawn from this experience. If you're someone who dreams of offering these services one day or just want to strengthen your reputation in the Pokemon community, these tips are for you. But first, it's important to understand that none of this would have been possible without building a solid foundation. And this leads me to tip number 1, build a strong foundation through community. It's that C word again. First and foremost, like anywhere else, trust starts with building a foundation, a community of people you know and trust. That's why I value our Cards and Coffee crew so much. Meeting up regularly with other collectors not only keeps me engaged in the hobby, but it helps foster relationships built on mutual trust and shared passion. This hobby is not just about the cards, it's about the people. Through these connections, I've been able to offer group PSA submissions for my close friends, and that provides them with a trusted process and peace of mind knowing that their cards are in good hands. When you create or join a community like this, you're building this network of trusted collectors, sellers, vendors, businesses, flippers, rip and shippers, what have you, that can vouch for your character. And when word spreads that you're someone that people can trust, it opens doors and other opportunities like the one I'm sharing with you today, helping someone grade and sell their high-end childhood collection. Trust me, starting with that C word, community, it makes all the difference. Once you have a solid foundation, my next tip is clear and consistent communication. Let's dive into that. When someone hands over their holo first edition base set cards to you, or any cards of value for that matter, they're trusting you to ensure that their cards are in safe hands. So you want to make sure that you answer each and every question that they may have prior to meeting to exchange those cards. Once those cards have been exchanged, it's crucial to keep an open line of communication with the seller each and every step of the process. We really want to put ourselves in the shoes of the people trusting us with their cards. In this case, Jason is entrusting that I will submit these cards properly to PSA. That includes making sure that I enter them correctly in the PSA system, making sure that I package them safely, making sure that I ship and insure it correctly, all while making sure that he gets updates on tracking to PSA and all the other steps of the PSA grading process. From right when it hits PSA's door to research and ID or any other important developments like upcharges, payment details, or shipment tracking after the submission's been graded, my priority is to be an open book with Jason. And let's be honest, like, these cards are valuable, and if I were him, I'd want to know too. This brings me to tip number 3, be transparent. Transparency ensures that there are no surprises. It helps eliminate the potential risk of misunderstandings in the future, and it helps build confidence with all parties involved. If you're going to provide a service like this, it's important to be upfront with your consignment fee and making sure that they know what grading is going to cost, shipping and insurance costs, and the potential timeline. I explained to Jason that I would only charge him what it would cost me to grade these cards if they were my own, and that I would be charging him a 10% fee when we sell these to a future buyer. Now, by crossing my T's and dotting my I's and making sure I jumped through all of the proper hoops, I made sure that it was clear to Jason that I would not personally be liable if something were to happen to these cards. But where I'm going with all of this is basically by setting these expectations early, it helps prevent any confusion later on. Before sending someone's cards out for grading, it's crucial to explain the condition of their cards and how that impacts the grade and how that ultimately impacts the value. And this is basically tip 4, and that's setting realistic expectations. By explaining this, it will help the seller feel informed, prepared, and in control of the process. When you're dealing with high-end valuable cards that you're submitting for grading for someone else, you want to give them a realistic estimate of what that card could potentially grade as. Is it a potential PSA 10 or possibly a PSA 6? This is what's called pre-grading. Pre-grading is basically when you take a good hard look at a card's condition before sending it off for professional grading. You want to look for things like surface scratches, indentations, corners, edges, and centering. This can help give you a clear idea of what grade to expect from that card. Not only does that help set realistic expectations for yourself, it also helps set expectations for the seller, and in this case, that's Jason. And that can really boost your credibility. When you can provide a solid pre-grade assessment, people will trust you more knowing you've taken the time to thoroughly evaluate the card. During the pre-grading process, I took the time to look at all of these first edition base set cards at my desk under good lighting. I explained to Jason that while these cards are beautiful and in great condition for as old as they are, certain flaws might impact their grade. And this helped Jason and I decide which cards that we'd submit in this first batch to PSA. Yes, you heard that correctly. We have more cards to submit after this first submission, so look out for that in a future video. What's important to remember is that by setting these realistic expectations, it not only shows that you care about the process, but it also helps manage those unrealistic hopes up front. It's also worth noting that these cards are graded by normal people like you and I. My assessment of these cards is based on past experiences of me grading cards, and at the end of the day, it's just an educated guess. So tip number 5, be impartial and fair. Acting impartially ensures that all parties feel valued and respected, and that reinforces trust. As the middleman for these cards, my role goes beyond just grading these cards for Jason. I'm also facilitating their sale and providing value to a future buyer. So when it comes to facilitating a deal between a seller and a buyer, it's my job to make sure that both parties are treated fairly and with respect. It's crucial to remain neutral and to avoid favoring one side over the other. as doing so could harm the trust and relationships that you're building with the seller and the buyer. In this hobby, your reputation depends on how you balance these dynamics. This brings me to my last tip: protect both parties' interests. Safeguarding the cards and the payments is the foundation of trust in any transaction as a middleman. When dealing with high-end cards, security is absolutely essential. For high-end private sales, I'll make sure that the cards are carefully packed, shipping using insured and trackable services, and every step of the process is well documented for both the seller and the buyer. This comes back to the importance of tips number 2 and 3. Clear communication and transparency. Payments will be held until all terms are met. This adds a layer of protection for both parties. If the sale were to be conducted through an online platform like eBay or an auction house, they typically handle all of that for you, such as shipping labels and payment security, but that convenience comes with fees that need to be considered. Ideally, the best case scenario for selling Jason's cards would be an in-person private transaction with someone that you trust with cash in hand. And that's an approach that I'll prioritize whenever possible. However, since this isn't always feasible, taking the right precautions is critical to ensure a safe and secure transaction. Now, it's a big responsibility to be grading and selling high-end Pokemon cards as a middleman, but it's also important to know that it's a great way to build trust and a strong reputation in this hobby. With clear communication, transparency, realistic expectations, fairness, and a commitment to protect everyone's interest, you can make this process seamless and rewarding for everyone involved. Alright y'all, I know I've dragged this out for far too long. Some of you probably already skipped to the end just so that you could see these cards, but we're at the point in this video where we're going to take a look at each and every card we're grading with PSA for Jason, and I'm very excited. I left the Charizards for last, so please stick around for those. I swear you won't regret it, so let's just jump right into it.
First up, we have Alakazam from first edition base set. Absolutely beautiful card. Unfortunately, I did find a binder dent here. That was pretty common because in the binder it was the first card, and those old binders people were using were O-ring, and when you would fold them over to close, sometimes the pages would get snagged under and it would cause a crease in the card. I'm going to do my best to try to flatten that out with something heavy. Obviously you got to be careful with that. You want to try to avoid the PSA 6 because that's what PSA will give it when they find indentations in a card. Overall, a really nice copy. Let's take a look at the holo real quick. So the holo looks pretty nice. There is some silvering that you can see. But overall, really, really nice. Let me see if I can show you that indentation. Yeah, you can kind of see it right here. Next up, my favorite, which is the Blastoise. Unfortunately, the centering's not great. As you can see, it's heavy right and heavy bottom. Beautiful card though, definitely my favorite from base set. Some white spots you can see here on this bottom right and left corner. Yeah, right here and here. This will probably bring it down. My hopes for this card is like a PSA 7 or 8, but we shall see. Let's take a look at it closer. See, the holos on these are really nice. Next up, we have First Ed base set Clefairy. Honestly, a slept on base set card in my opinion. I love the colors on this card. My pre-grade assessment on this is probably like a PSA 7 or 8, depending on how hard they grade some of this whitening. And I did see a subtle scratch on the back. The holo overall is pretty nice. That scratch is on the card saver, it's not on the card. Overall, a really nice card. Centering is really nice, which is a plus because that helps that eye appeal aspect. Next up, we have a fan favorite, First Ed Gyarados from base set. Beautiful card. I think this one has a chance at an 8, possibly a weak 9. Has some subtle white dots on those edges and corners here. You can see those two here really. But overall, it's a nice copy. Let's pull it out. Yeah, some subtle hollow scratches that go vertically, almost like print lines. Yeah, those are print lines. They're too straight, but very, very subtle. But overall, the surface is really nice. Next up, we have Venusaur 1 and Venusaur 2. Now, it's absolutely crazy to have two of these in hand. Unfortunately, one of these has a lot more flaws than the other. I'd have to say that one of them is most likely like a 6. Yeah, I would say it's this one. It has a lot more whitening on this edge. And I looked at the surface and it does have some surface flaws. You can see all that whitening. I'm hoping for like a 6 or 7. And you might be wondering why I'm wearing this black glove. The reason why I'm wearing that is that it allows me to see the edge whitening. You can kind of see it there. But yeah, let's take a closer look at this front. So on the front, you'll see some subtle scratches on the hollow. Nothing really crazy. No indents, but if we take a look at the back, that's where we see a majority of the whitening. So as you can see, you don't see that whitening without that black background, right? So you can see that there's some whitening on that top edge, in the middle, some on that top left corner, and then some on this left edge, this left corner a little bit. And then this right edge actually just, it looks like whitening on camera, but it's mostly just the way that the card was cut. And sometimes it just has like some extra cardboard, if you will. PSA is iffy about that. Like sometimes it doesn't impact the grade so much, sometimes it does. I guess it really just depends on the grader. We'll take a look at the back a little closer. There is some lifts on that top edge you can see in the right light. Let's see if I can, yeah, you can kind of see it right there. And there's some subtle light scratches and print lines on the back. My pre-grade evaluation on this is a lucky 8, but most likely like maybe a 7. Next up, we have base set Charizard. Now, this is not first edition. This is actually unlimited. It doesn't have the first edition stamp here. It has the shadow and it's a lot more saturated. Definitely a staple in the hobby. One of the most nostalgic artworks in Pokemon. It's a card that most people want to have in their collection. And what's even cooler is that we're going to grade 2 of them. So Jason actually won both of these in tournaments back when he was playing in 1999, which is awesome. Like, you don't hear about that. I didn't even know that this was a card that you can win as a prize when you play tournaments back then. So really excited to see what these grade as. I think one of them is like a PSA 8 or 9, and the other one is most likely like a 6 because I did see a binder indentation. Yeah, you can see it right there. Unfortunately, I'm gonna do my best to try to flatten that out.
All right, y'all, so here it is. It's the last card in the PSA sub, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I never thought that I would ever hold this card in person, let alone grade it. So Jason, thank you so much for this opportunity. I can't say it enough.
We have a first edition base set Charizard, an absolute grail in the hobby, an historical artwork, such a monumental card that so many people want to have in their collection. I can't believe it. So beautiful. It gets crazier, y'all. Like, I'm not even playing. We're grading 2 of them. Like, what is going on? This is absolutely insane. These copies are actually thin stamp, and the way that you can tell that these are thin stamp first ed is based off the thickness of the font. So people often get confused with thick and thin because they think that the stamp looks darker and more bold, that it's the thick stamp, but it's actually the thin stamp, and it's based off of the one font. Yeah, some knowledge for you. But guys, this is absolutely crazy. Like, I can't believe it. So my grading assessment on this, my guess is that one of these is like a PSA 8 and the other is like a 6 or 7. I don't think any of these are 10s, but they are really nice copies. It has some whitening here, nothing on the top. You can see some whitening on this right and some whitening on this bottom. Yeah, let's pull one out. I think this one looks really nice. Beautiful card, y'all. That hollow looks really nice. Can't believe I'm holding this card, y'all. Like, this is crazy. There are some imperfections. These cards are not perfect. I did notice these red dots on the yellow border, but they're pretty common. Like, I see them on multiple copies. It's like almost like an ink splatter or something. I mean, these are the first print runs of English. You can see there's some flaws in the surface. They look a lot more aggressive in this lighting than they do you look at them directly, but man, these cards are nice. Jason did a great job preserving them for this long. I mean, they're 25-year-old cards, y'all. Absolutely beautiful. We'll take a look at the other one too. Insane, y'all. This holo looks great. You can see that there are some missing ink on this top. You can see the holo shine through where it isn't supposed to. You see those red dots here? You can see them on both copies, which I thought was really interesting. They're in the exact same spots too. So I think it is pretty common. You can take a look at the back too while we're here, while we have it out. I'm not gonna have these cards in hand much longer, so I might as well show them off as much as possible. Really beautiful. Like, guys, this is absolutely crazy. I can't believe it. There you have it, y'all. I wasn't even trying to hype it up like I was gassing y'all for no reason. Like, this is crazy. Like, what is going on? Can't believe it. Thank you so much, Jason. Really excited about grading these for you. All right, y'all, so let's take a look at the whole submission. So we have the 2 unlimited Charizards, and then we have all of the first eds. So we have the Alakazam, the Blastoise, the Clefairy, the Gyarados, the Venusaur, the second Venusaur, the first base set first ed Charizard, and the second. Ah, man. Can't wait to grade these, y'all. Can't wait to show you. Let's jump back into the rest of the video.
Helping someone grade and sell their first edition Charizards that they pulled as a kid and Charizards that they won in tournaments back in 1999 is an unforgettable experience that creates a true bond. And I can't thank Jason enough for giving me this opportunity to share it with you all. Trust isn't about just any one deal. It's about building a reputation that lasts. These cards are off to PSA very soon. So if you're excited about seeing the grading results for these cards like this one here, leave a like and subscribe for more epic Pokemon card content. Now I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What are your grading predictions for these cards? Do you agree or disagree with my predictions? And remember, whether you're trading, selling, or buying, trust is what keeps this hobby thriving. And until next time, happy collecting, y'all. Peace.